Hey everybody, it is August 18th, 2007. I am Sonic Sons, and I'm doing a video called What's Wrong with Liberals? Now, of course, this brings into question what a liberal is, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure anymore, because the term seems to wave around in all sorts of strange ways. Basically, you know, the liberals are in the Democratic Party, and the conservatives in the Republican Party, and, there's a whole host of issues where, you know, this is just every issue. There's like the liberal side and there's the conservative side. And I don't exactly know what the unifying philosophy is that, you know, puts together all of these issues the same, anyway. But, as far as I can grasp the term, I have liberal leanings. I wouldn't call myself a liberal, precisely, because, you know, I'm independent. That's why, actually, what I do call myself, an independent, you know. For instance, I believe pro-life in the abortion debate, right? That's not a liberal position. You know, you can't be a liberal, you must be a conservative. Well, yeah, but I'm also pro-gun control. Oh, that would make you a liberal. Well, that would, you know. So, but I generally identify with most of the liberal ideas. So I'm going to use the word we here, referring to liberals, as I read this thing. I was reading the newspaper, right? In the newspaper, there's this editorial that's got these things that I've seen all over the place, and I don't get it. All right, it says, let me count the ways that liberals are bad. Number 1, liberals seldom praise the miracle of the free market, capitalism, but invoke instead socialistic and Marxist ideas for the issues. That is, let the government run it. Okay. The liberals are capitalists, you know, right? I mean, you could call communism a sort of extreme liberalism, I guess, if you want to define it that way. But, like, we do own businesses and believe in free market along with the rest of you. And you know, okay, so obviously there's some disagreement on this, not as much as you seem to imply. The problem is that you call the miracle of the free market isn't actually perfect. This is a sad thing. I think conservatives generally just let the market handle it. The market will do anything. The market will, you know, and the market's great for a lot of things, let me say, you know. It generally praises efficiency. Generally praises, you know, it's a meritocracy, generally. The thing is, the market can also be really cutthroat. The market can also be really cruel. The market can, you know, when a company finds that it's, you know, it can make more profits by dumping toxic waste into a river, who's there to stop them, right? The whole point of the market is to make money. If they make more money by throwing toxic waste into the river, then they make more money, you know? And then all these people suffer. And here's the thing, it's not their customers that suffer. There's a tricky thing with markets, right? Because generally if you make a bad product, people will just stop buying your product, right? It wasn't good enough. And that's the meritocracy idea of it. But if you dump it into a river, the toxic waste that is, unless all your customers happen to live on that one river, which they probably don't, right? You're going to be poisoning a whole bunch of people that are completely uninvolved, right? And they're going to develop whatever long-term health effects or something, right? And let's say the company knows this, right? Let's say some scientist guy told them, look, we got this report, and it turns out if you drink water that comes from a toxic river, 10 years later you'll get cancer. And the company's like, well, but the market says we should make more money. So, market! So, I'm a capitalist. I believe in the free market. But even the free market isn't perfect. Just like the government's not perfect. Hey, I'll say that. Obviously, you can't solve everything with a government program, right? But, you know, I don't believe in dumping toxic waste into the freaking rivers. That's just... Come on, guys. That shouldn't happen. You got, you know, socialist and Marxist ideas that we use. Gee, I mean, most of us aren't socialists and Marxists. Come on. Let's not get to name-calling here. Now, obviously, letting the government run something could be considered Marxist-ish, I guess, but I don't believe that, like, you know, the government should run all our trains and buses and airplanes, and the government should handle, you know, where I buy a burger or something. But I would like the government to make sure that there's no rat poison in the burger. You know? I mean, that seems That seems obvious. Obviously, things can go a bit too far. People talk about the nanny state. You know, the government stopping you from doing anything that might possibly be bad for you. I can see how that can go too far. You know, if it's just kind of a fatty food, and that's generally bad for you, well, gee, you know, the guy's going to take his own risk, and it's not that bad. If, however, it is that bad, as in the case of, oh, I don't know, suicide, I should hope the government would intervene there, right? I'm sure we agree on that one. I did not just accuse you of being pro-suicide, believe me. There are certain instances in which the government does intervene, particularly in cases when you hurt somebody else. People talk about big government with new anti-smoking laws. And you can't smoke, like in public parks or something, various things like that. You know, the problem with smoking is that the smoke is going to waft through the air, and the rest of us have to breathe it. You see, here I am walking by, I'm not a smoker, you know, and that's my choice not to be a smoker, and then, oh crap, now I've got just a little bit of tar in my lungs, and that's not good. I can see why the government would get involved in that. Anyway, yeah, the free market, you know, the free market gave us child labor, you know. I mean, I hate to say it, I am a capitalist, I am, but like, it was, you know, good 100 years ago, that was pretty common. Actually, it was really, as the Industrial Revolution starts coming up, and we start realizing we can just, like, churn out hours out of people, right? They started employing kids when they could. And, that was kind of abusive to the kids. You know, that was kind of wrong. You have, like, an 8-year-old working 10 hours, something crazy like that, right? And the free market forced that to happen. Because, hey, if you make some money off this kid and you pay him only a little bit, you know, and then, well, guess we'll employ more kids until the government came by and said, no, you can't do that. And because nobody could do that, suddenly everyone was freed from that burden. Because otherwise, as FDR said in one of his fireside chats, right, he said, hey, one of the reasons we're doing this, that is passing child labor laws, one of the reasons we're doing this is because, you know, if you're a good, like a moral company owner, and you want to stop child labor, you can't. Because if you do, you lose profits, and that'll end up, and then the other company will get bigger and buy you out, and all these are crazy crap, you know. But if we can stop everybody, then hey, free market still works. The government didn't take over all the coal mines and all the everything, right? On the other hand, no kids are working. Yeah, that works in both ways. The government can do nice things. The government runs our police and our fire departments, and they provide our water, for crying out loud. You know, I mean, I don't particularly mind if any private company would like to prepare water. As a matter of fact, there are private companies involved, even though it's like government contracts generally that figure out where the pipes are going to go. Generally, it's not some private company going to tear up all the pipes in the neighborhood and put them in new pipes just because somebody wanted it. Anyway, you know, I believe in the free market, but it has limits because of the competitive nature of it. This is different, for instance, community-based things that I'm always preaching about, like Linux, because that's cooperation-based. We're all making something together, even when we splinter off, it forms back together, and, you know, borrow each other's code. This is competition-based, which, again, can bring about a meritocracy. But it can also bring cutthroatedness. You know, it was the free market that collapsed in 1929 and gave us 10 years of Great Depression, may I remind you. I mean, things are pretty unregulated then, you know, compared to now, anyway. I'm sure there are even then people complaining about regulations, but, you know, and then the whole thing turns south. Okay. That didn't work out, and then it was the government, during the next 10 years or so, that provide all sorts of services. And granted, the government didn't exactly fix the Great Depression. We had to wait for World War II to do that, because wars have a weird thing with curing depressions, if you're winning, of course.